a rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Boy, what a week. What a week, what a week, what a week. Well, I mean, and I'm not talking about the DNC, although the DNC was pretty damn boring. But also, you know, RFK Jr.'s dropping out. That was a big deal. We're going to have to wait and see what happens to the polls. There have been a couple people on, the socials who are already saying that Kamala's getting a bump in the polls, but I'm not quite sure I believe it. Anyway, all right, tonight I have Pops McGroin on tap for the pledge. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat, like me, if you're wearing one, put your hand over your heart, and follow along with Pops and his mate, friend, whatever he calls her, because I'm not exactly sure what it is or what she is. But anyway, follow along with the two of them as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
That's right. God bless America. And thank you, Pops, for sending in that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance done here on the program, it's really very simple. All you have to do is go and record yourself reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and then take that audio file, send it off to me, to my email address. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, so tonight is Saturday, and I am drinking the Four Roses single barrel. I don't have very much left. I'm thinking of trying to kill the bottle so I can get another one, because that's just how I roll. And it is sitting in the We the People Lucky Shot USA glass. Yeah, I don't know what this is, but this, I don't know if it's a old fashioned, if it's a rocks. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a bunch of different little glass names to this thing. But anyway, there it is in the Lucky Shot USA. With the whiskey stones, of course. Good stuff. All right. Just like all the kinds of good stuff that we've got going on in the world today. I mean, let's be honest. It's all there. It's all there. All right. Tonight is Saturday, so we have the Institute on the Constitution as tonight's sponsor, or headline sponsor, I should say. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from Him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, you can go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this thing out. It has an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather that wraps around tear and water-resistant pages. And if you look at that binding, this isn't cheap glue here, folks. This is stitched all the way through, into, and through the leather, wrapping the pages securely within. It has a 100-year manufacturer's warranty against materials and labor defects. If something goes wrong with this thing, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online, get your copy that has been buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has assured me that the information inside will get you your civics badge in scouting. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, go and check out the Institute on the Constitution, too. They have a bunch of other information that is just fantastic for you as well. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. All right, let's get on with the first segment of the program, which, of course, is a fan favorite right here on this day in American history. And, of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from The American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full of all kinds. Look at how thick that is. That thing is thick. Thick with information and wonderful anecdotes and things like that, all about our historical founding. And it's just chock full of so much information. I can't even keep it in my head. Very much. All right, today is August 24th. We're going to talk about Dolly Madison, how she saves the national pride. On August 24th, 1814, during the War of 1812, British troops marched on Washington, D.C. Outside the city waited a ragtag American army along with President James Madison and his advisors, who had raced to the battlefield to witness the capital's defense. The crack British forces quickly overran the American lines. Panic reigned in Washington as fleeing soldiers and statesmen began straggling through the city streets. Many public records, including the Declaration of Independence, had already been packed into linen bags and carted off to Virginia, where they were piled in an empty house. Now, the roads leading out of town began to fill with wagons carrying families and their valuables. In nearby Georgetown and Alexandria, citizens made plans to surrender at the first sight of a British officer. First Lady Dolly Madison calmly directed last-minute details at the White House. A large portrait of George Washington hung in the dining room. It would be a disgrace if it fell into British hands. Dolly ordered 2 servants to bring it along, but the huge frame was screwed so tightly to the wall that no one could get it down. Minutes ticked by as they tugged and tugged, but to no avail. The First Lady refused to leave without the portrait. At last, someone produced a penknife and carefully cut the canvas from the frame. With the precious painting in hand, Dolly and her comrades headed toward Virginia. Later that evening, the British entered a dark and empty Washington. The Capitol building and White House went up in flames, and the night sky glowed red as the city burned. It was the only time our nation's capital has fallen into enemy hands. The determined Americans would rebuild. In the meantime, Dolly Madison had saved a piece of the national pride. And that, my friends, is on this day in American history. You know what I'd really like to know is where in the hell did our heartbeat, our soul of our country disappear to? Folks, we're allowing, it seems, our country to fall into Marxist hands without even a single whimper at this point. Well, I guess November 5th will come soon, and that will tell us whether or not we have enough American pride to be able to save this great nation and keep it on its constitutional course throughout history. All right, so yesterday, of course, RFK Jr. stepped out and backed Donald Trump. But there's another person out there who also is helping, believe it or not, helping Donald Trump by staying in. Or at least that's what the Democrat outlet Newsweek seems to think. Well, that's some good whiskey. Anyway, sorry. I should say it truthful. It's bourbon. Just had to check to make sure. Kentucky bourbon. But here in Newsweek, RFK Jr. out, Jill Stein staying in. Now, you wouldn't necessarily think that Jill Stein would be necessarily a help to Donald Trump per se, but she is. Same thing with Cornel West, even though Cornel West it's got some problems on the ballots in a couple of states. Legally, anyway. So according to Newsweek, and this is part of the reason why the Dems are seriously worried about this whole thing. You just can't imagine. I'm sorry, I'm taking a digression from the piece here, but you just can't imagine the fear, the palpable desperation and fear that is coming from the leftist sycophants all on X. That announcement from RFK kind of just like sucked the air right out of their sails for the most part, because they know that with RFK Jr. and in fact, even the leftist mainstream media is starting to get in on it, because there were some articles with regards to RFK Jr. apparently being accused in college of some kind of cocaine dealing. And I don't know if it's true or not. The statute of limitations, obviously, on an offense like that is likely, depending upon the state, but likely completely gone. But they are pushing to try and discredit him even more so now that he has jumped onto the Trump train. That's going to be interesting to watch over the course of the next several weeks. We're down below, I think, 75 now. 75 days. I know we're between 70 and 80. I'm just not exactly sure where. But anyway, back to the piece here in Newsweek. In a double boost for Donald Trump, RFK Jr. on Friday threw his backing behind the former president, while Jill Stein unequivocally stated she will not drop out of the race. And during the event in Arizona, Kennedy announced that he was suspending his campaign for the White House and will be supporting Trump. Now, technically, that's not exactly true, because what he said was that in the states that were clearly going to go either Democrat, or the states that were clearly going to go Republican that he was on the ballots for, he wasn't going to do anything. He was still going to show up on the ballots in those states. But where he really wanted to make the difference was in the 10 battleground states. And he said that he would be withdrawing his name off of those ballots in order to help Trump. And he encouraged the voters who were in those battleground states to vote for Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris in those battleground states. Now, Jill Stein on the other side, well, can't really call her on the other side because she's just in some other, I think she's the Green Party candidate. Anyway, Jill Stein told Newsweek that she is staying in the race and added that she would never back Kamala Harris at all, even if it means facing a repeat of accusations that her campaign took votes away from the Democrats and contributed to a Trump victory. So a recent poll from the Wall Street Journal, according to this piece, found that when Kennedy and other third-party candidates are removed from the ballot, half of the voters backing those candidates would actually support Trump, while only a quarter of those, now I told you about this yesterday, only a quarter of those would instead vote for Harris. Meanwhile, in an August poll from ABC News, the Washington Post Ipsos found Stein is only polling at around 1%, though her supporters are often thought to lean progressive. So she's not dropping out, number one, and she said that even if she did, she would never back Kamala Harris. That's kind of interesting. That's an interesting calculation, considering she has basically, started it. And let's be honest, I mean, she's a progressive, okay? And most of her voters are progressive. And so realistically, it's not going to hurt Trump any, if her voters were to go to Kamala Harris necessarily, but because they aren't, it's actually hurting Kamala Harris for her to stay in the race, which is a good thing for Trump. And that's what they're trying to get at here. So Stein said, quote, "I'm focused on us doing as strongly as we can so we can push Harris or Trump on the genocidal war, on the militarization of the police. The Democrats are not a lesser evil. We have two evil options. Both is a vote for genocide," which is bullshit. Sorry. Disagree, little Miss Stein. Madam Stein. Totally disagree because of the fact that it's not for genocide. And here, and she's kind of wearing a, you can see in this image, for those of you on the audio portion of the program, she's wearing like one of those I can't even pronounce it, scarves, the scarves that the Israeli, the Palestinian front wears. They're the white and blue scarves, white and dark blue scarves. But anyway. Now, she, of course, was referring to Israel's war on Gaza with that, which she is a vocal opponent for. The war began with Hamas after the attack on October 7th, 2023. So Newsweek reached out to the Democrat Party and the Harris and Trump campaigns by email Friday morning for comment. And there wasn't anything there, but when asked if she feared a similar backlash as after Trump's 2016 victory, when Hillary Clinton and many in the Democrat Party blamed her for taking crucial votes in several battleground states, Stein basically said, "Those smear or fear campaigns by the parties of Wall Street have never stopped." She said, "The exit polls showed a vast majority of our votes in 2016 were actually non-voters," stating that it is nonsense to claim that her party took votes away from Clinton, even though we know that they do. I mean, come on, seriously? If all you had was a choice of Democrat or Republican, and you're a conservative, you're going to vote Republican. If you are a progressive moron, you're going to vote Democrat. I mean, let's just be honest here. The only thing this does is this maybe makes it to where, you know what, some of those people who normally might vote for a Democrat candidate, if they were much more moderate, this might make them actually stay out of the race, which is what happened in 2016. So, yeah, it just makes it so that there are less votes for the Democrats. Now, I mean, I've told people on this program, I've told people on social media outlets, I am not a Republican. I've never claimed to be a Republican. Do I vote Republican? Yes. But the reason why I vote Republican is because although I am a strict constitutional conservative and actually identify more with a party that is starting but growing, the Constitutional Party, or the Constitution Party, I think, even though I would more likely identify with them, I am still looking for whoever is, and this is really sad to even say this, but whoever is the lesser of two evils. Now, to be completely honest, as I've told you on this program a few times before, the fact of the matter is that when our founders created this great country, they actually abhorred the idea of political parties. They felt that political parties, at least most of them anyway, they felt political parties were a bit of a problem for that. And that political parties would actually form in certain areas and start to set up partisanship and not create the America that everybody should have, which is totally free and fair and liberty and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look what we've bastardized the thing into, which is part of the reason why I've never identified necessarily with a political party. This is exactly why, because I actually don't believe that political parties necessarily, I mean, yes, they show their platforms, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. But that isn't what should be the case. We shouldn't necessarily be looking at an individual political party. We should have multiple political parties. We should have the Green Party, the Socialist Democrat Party, the American Patriots Party, the Tea Party, the Constitution Party. We should have all those parties and have the opportunity to go out and pick the best candidate, the person with the most qualifications, the best platform, the best ideas, in my view, the most stringent adherence to the Constitution of the United States and the way that this country was originally founded and supposed to be ran. That is to say, limited government interference in your life. And to have a federal government that only supports the individual items that show up in Article 1, Section 8. That's the party or the person that I'm going to support in the election when they have the opportunity to present themselves. Now, there are other things that, of course, comes out for sure. Thanks for that, 3 Chevy. That's kind of cute. The American Perspective Party. Well, there are some things that I also do agree with in terms of a conservative viewpoint. My views on abortion are pretty well enamored. You guys kind of know them. If you haven't checked me out on social media, you can figure it out. I have a more of a realistic viewpoint as to where that in particular is going to go, but that's neither here nor there tonight. But the thing about it is that our country was not founded on political parties. Our country was not founded on the idea either, by the way, that public service was a career. The idea originally, which I thought George Washington made abundantly clear when he left. Becky calls out one of my platforms, free whiskey for all. Oh, yeah. Definitely, that would be the top of the platform list for sure. But the thing about it is I thought that George Washington made it abundantly clear when he stepped down after 2 terms of service and pretty much said, it's time to make room for new blood. He set the tone for what the idea the tradition should be, regardless of whether you're a senator or a congressperson or the president, that should be the de facto standard. And anyone who honestly has any type of integrity at all should do that exact very thing. Teddy Roosevelt called it out in one of his speeches where he was saying that getting into politics and public service is a civic duty, but that you're only there for a short period of time and then you make way for the next person to come in. This idea that we have people like Nancy Pelosi, like Joe Biden, like Chuck Schumer, who go into politics and are in that for 20, 30, 40, 50 freaking years, that wasn't even conceivable to the founders. So anyway, continuing on here in the piece, 2017 book, What Happened, according to the piece here, Clinton wrote that Stein contributed to her defeat by Trump. So in each state, there were more than enough Stein voters to swing the result, just like Ralph Nader did in Florida and New Hampshire in 2000, when Republican George Bush narrowly defeated incumbent Vice President Al Gore in the presidential election, Clinton wrote. Stein got 1% of the vote in 2016, receiving just under 1.5 million votes. How about this? How about this, Hillary? You're a garbage person and you were a garbage candidate. Nobody liked you. That's why you lost. You left our people to die in Benghazi because you couldn't bother to pick up the frickin' phone and respond when they were in some serious trouble? You sold uranium off to Russia? Yeah, you were a garbage candidate and you are definitely a garbage person. Although there's not very many left alive that would be able to tell us that. Oh, did I say that out loud? Ooh. Sorry. Anyway, the point here is that even if Jill Stein stays in the race and does pull numbers from Kamala Harris, that is exactly the right thing to do in order to save America, because America needs saving right now. We're up against an evil that has a Marxist evil that has not been close to our seat of power for many, many, many years. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm kind of glad to see it. Now, of course, the Democrat propaganda machine is going to go after RFK. Like I said, they're going to keep putting out all kinds of RFK stuff. You know, things that just don't seem to make sense, except for those of who are Democrat morons. And yes, they are morons. Anyone voting for Democrats is a moron. That's what I say all the time. And I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong at all. Okay, so her speech, and by her, I'm talking about Kamala Harris's acceptance speech, which was 37 minutes of literally nothing, just a whole bunch of, oh, this is my wish list, and no inkling as to how she was even going to get it done, which, you know, that's typical for Democrats. But also, there were a couple things that happened at the DNC that were in regards to what's going on there. And ironically, they kind of got some people talking in terms of two lines in particular at her address. And there was also a missing person at the DNC as well that you would have expected would have been there as well. But I'll get to that in just a moment. Hey, you check out this shirt that I've got on. This shirt, this fabulous U.S. flag themed shirt. Yeah. You want to get one like this? This is the cotton men's polo that comes from theflagshirt.com. You can go directly to theflagshirt.com and take a look at all of their styles. They've got some great styles, great patriotic styles for men, women, kids. They've got accessories, all kinds of things that you can get for special events, such as the upcoming Constitution Day, by the way. And they currently have a Labor Day sale going on right now where you can get $20 off with the promo code 20, that's TWENTY, at checkout if you spend over $100. Or if you spend over $75, you can get free shipping. Or if you don't want to spend that much, I have a deal for you as well. Before you head off to theflagshirt.com, you can also go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and you can get yourself a code, my personal setup, my personal code, that you can go and enter in a checkout to get $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, copy that code, and put it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com to get yourself $5 off your order. Or you can take advantage of the other specials that I've already mentioned. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. I wear their shirts almost all the time. If I'm not wearing my American Perspective shirt on the show, you can almost be guaranteed, actually you can be guaranteed, that it is either a theflagshirt.com shirt or one of my American Perspective logo geared shirts. Either one. All right. So here in Red State, they call out two interesting lines. They say ironic. I'm not exactly sure they're using ironic in the proper English methodology, but that's okay. I mean, nowadays you can't really assume that a journalist knows English. But that being said, or at least proper English, I should say. But that being said, two ironic lines they call out in Kamala's address that didn't go well for her and had everyone talking. So here is one of the lines. Let's go ahead and listen to this.
And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
All right. So first of all, she said, on behalf of the people. Yeah. You never got a single vote, woman. You didn't get a single vote. You got zero votes. Oh my gosh. She got the she got the nomination because she was installed after they had shoved out Joe Biden and literally pushed the old man off the cliff. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. So a lot of people were kind of talking about that. So the biggest thing here is that there were people that weren't buying it. So here in the Free Press, there was a person who was reviewing the speech. Well, let's just listen to this.
The whole DNC was, I mean, obviously very heavy on vibes, very little substance. There was nothing there that a struggling working class person
I think that's right.
could say, this is what is going to make my life materially, measurably better tomorrow. The way that at almost every minute of the DNC, of the RNC, that was being hammered home. But, you know, we're sitting here laughing about this, but there is actually something unbelievably insulting to the American people about getting up there and spending half an hour talking about your family when people are choosing between feeding their children chicken for dinner and being able to drive them to church on Sunday. It is an insult to have an entire convention and not have any policy, any agenda, anything to tell people, choose me because I'm going to make your life better. Instead, all we get is for the people, and we're supposed to take that on faith. And in fact, some of the quotes even reflect that. She's like, let us show the world and each other that we're going to be better. Okay, how? Let us uplift the middle class. Okay, how? Let us secure the border. How? There is something so unbelievably insulting and going in there in the state that America is in and just asking people to take it for granted that you're going to do these things. And so I'm actually really upset about it.
I can tell.
And the way that everything is defined in opposition to Trump, everything. There is nothing outside of Trump. There is no American people outside of Trump. There is no real feeling for who are these people who we are going to serve. And I think that is the real fundamental failure here. There is no concept of service here. And yeah, you could talk about Trump's personality. You can talk about how he talks. You could talk about how he tweets. The RNC was extremely heavy on service. How are we going to serve the American people? And I think that this is outrageous.
Yep. So there you go. Outrageous. It is outrageous. It's totally outrageous. There's not one single policy that she outlined. She gave us a wish list of this is what I think I want to do, but not how to get there. Now, Becky over in our Down Under contingent in Facebook land asked who nominated her. Technically, the cabal of Democrat elites, including Obama, Pelosi, Schumer, Jeffries, and of course, Kamala Harris. So don't think that Kamala Harris is outside of this. She's trying to distance herself again. She's trying to distance herself from the whole idea. And they, you know, the audacity of these people, they want you to believe that you are so stupid that you don't know that she's already been in office, that she wasn't a part of this setup of people, that she wasn't a part of the group that has brought us here. I mean, I just don't seem to see how these people, and well, if you listen to the Democrat sycophants on the socials, they're all like, oh my gosh, she was so powerful, so wonderful, so, as Midwest Gunner over on Rumble says, she was so brat. What the hell does brat even mean? What the? Give me some substance. Give me some reality. Tell me that you were going to do something. Well, her economic plan told me that she's going to do something. She's going to take more control. She's going to tax the shit out of all kinds of stuff that we don't even have. You know, and it's subjugated to our future earnings. She wants to put price caps on things and, of course, make for shortages and organizations that just won't be making this stuff anymore because they can't make any money on it. I mean, seriously. Oh, and here's kind of a funny thing. Rebecca Downs over at Town Hall, which is a sister site, reported this. Listen to this line.
For seniors facing elder abuse.
Hey, lady, You were part of the cabal that shoved a senior off the cliff, sent him off to freaking California when he isn't even done with his amount of time in the Oval Office yet. Oh my gosh, that is just, anyway, she also helped up, don't forget, she helped cover up Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Now, 3 Chevy brings up a good question here, or possibly a good point. He says, I bet one way or another Joe is out before his term ends. I don't think so, 3 Chevy. He has to be able to pardon Hunter. There's no way. I don't think so. I think they're going to leave him in until he can pardon Hunter, or they'll have to have some sort of a guarantee that Harris would pardon Hunter as well. So, yeah. Now, continuing on with this, there was a poll performed by YouGov and Times of London just after Biden ended up dropping out of the race. A whopping 92% of people believe that Harris was at least a little bit involved, with 68% saying she was involved a great deal, 17% saying somewhat, and 7% saying a little. Well, here's the thing, folks. He was threatened by the cabal that they were going to 25th him. Okay? He was threatened by the cabal that they were going to 25th Amendment him. She has to be a part of that because it's her plus the cabinet, constitutionally speaking, that can do that, that have the power to do that. Yeah. So anyway, the DNC doesn't seem to have been all that positive for Kamala Harris. She's a lying Marxist. That's all she is. Speaking of Marxists, by the way, there was one significant figure in Kamala Harris's life and upbringing, by the way, that was missing from the DNC. Did anybody catch who it was? The one person in her life that could possibly end the conversation about whether or not she is black or not wasn't there. Kamala Harris's Marxist father was missing from the audience during her DNC speech and also wasn't apparently present as a part of her life story either. Actually, sorry, I digress. Side note. 3 Chevy says he could pardon Hunter anytime and then leave, letting Kamala into the lawfare against Trump. No, he can't pardon Hunter until Hunter is convicted. Then he can pardon him. You can't, like, pre-pardon somebody for a crime that they haven't yet committed or been convicted of committing. So they have to wait until Hunter's... Now, okay... Hunter could do a plea deal and say, hey, I'm going to plead guilty to this. And I fall on the mercy of the court. And then President Biden can go and like clear him. But as long as he stays saying that he's not guilty of anything, the president can't pardon somebody pre-conviction. Doesn't work that way. Anyway, so her dad was gone. I think part of the reason why is because they don't want to be asking him questions, or they don't want to be asking the question with regards to his upbringing, because he already wrote about it. It's out there. He said that he is Irish and, depending upon who you ask, either Hindu or of some indeterminate origin. She's not black. That's the thing. She's not black. Donald Harris, this is in the piece from the New York Post. Donald Harris, a leftist economist who turned 86 on Friday, was conspicuously absent from the row of family that included husband Doug Emhoff and his 2 adult children, as well as Harris's younger sister. and her family at the United Center in Chicago. And of course, that he is her only living parent, by the way. While Harris spoke lovingly of her mother's influence on her life in her speech, she only fleetingly mentioned Donald, cutting him out of her briefly recounted life story from the time she was in elementary school. She said, "From that moment, it was mostly my mother who raised us." So the estrangement apparently between the two is so pronounced that Harris has never publicly acknowledged that she has a stepmother, Carol Curlew, 70, who is married to Donald Harris and is a former World Bank executive. So, yeah. Now, both of those two were born in Jamaica, and they live in Washington, D.C., a condo that is a short drive from the White House, according to public records. But it's not clear whether Donald Harris had been invited to the Democrat convention or if he just chose not to attend. He didn't return a request for comment on Friday. So the one mentioned during her speech that I'm aware of, says, "At the park, my mother would say, 'Stay close.' But my father would say, as he smiled, 'Run, Kamala, run. Don't be afraid. Don't let anything stop you. From my earliest years, he taught me to be fearless.'" So her parents apparently split up when she was 8, and she and her younger sister were largely raised by their mother. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah. So there you go. Oh. Well, here's kind of an interesting note. I missed this earlier, looking through. Here in the piece, despite the estrangement, an academic who had befriended Donald Harris when he was a Fulbright scholar in Brazil in the 1990s, said that father and daughter share similar economic views. Well, that makes sense. That's where her freaking economic plan came from. I told you she was a Marxist. So, this friend, Juanilo Extierra, or Texiera, however you want to pronounce it, I have no idea. I have the impression that the press tends to exaggerate the distance between them in the political sense, with people saying that he was much more to the left, more of a social democrat than she is. Oh, so she's being called out by this guy. Yeah. So The Economist recently described her father as a combative Marxist economist. There you go. I told you she's a Marxist. You guys didn't believe me. Some of you did. But anyway, he also said that the contact, or the family friend or whatever, said Donald Harris lived with his family in Brazil's capital for a few months in 1997, and the two became friends over long lunches and barbecues following Harris's lectures, which mainly focused on the distribution of wealth and inflation. He said that he visited Harris while he was a professor at Stanford, and the two have continued to stay in touch. Harris retired from Stanford University in 1998 and was named an emeritus professor of economics. The family friend, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to try and mincemeat his name. But anyway, I'm aware, of course, that some of his theories are very present in his daughter. The question of the distribution of wealth, the question of raising up people of African descent, these issues are very present in what she says. Yeah, okay, so he claims that she's of African descent. That's interesting. Anyway, there's more. There's a bunch of other stuff here as well, but about her father. But anyway, you can read it. It's in the show notes or in the description of the video. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit to the upcoming election. The upcoming election, of course, apparently has potential of a bunch of illegals, because I've pointed out to you on multiple occasions how non-citizen voters, they're not all illegal, but non-citizen voters have been able to register. It appears I'm not the only one barking up on that tree, because apparently, at least according to the Just the News piece here, a majority of Americans expect a large numbers of illegal aliens to unlawfully vote in this election, according to a poll. This poll, which was published yesterday, from the Neapolitan News Service, found that 54% of respondents said they believe illegal immigrants will vote in November. And 75% of those say they do not support allowing illegal immigrants to vote in federal elections. An even larger percentage of the survey taken, 87%, support requiring voter ID in order to vote in federal elections, according to the poll. So this poll is already disputing what the Democrats are saying, where, voter ID, all that does is prevent people from voting. Well, if people support the fact that voter ID should be used, then why in the hell are the Democrats so against things like voter ID? Well, it's pretty simple. Because the illegal and non-citizen voting is predominantly for Democrats. How many times can I tell you this? The poll comes in as Republicans in Congress attempt to push through the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which is known as the SAVE Act, and it requires voters to prove their citizenship in the United States in order to vote in federal elections. The bill has passed the House, of course, but not the Senate, which, by the way, a lot of people have been kicking around the whole concept that the border security bill, which of course was presented in the Senate and shot down by the Republicans, okay, and it wasn't even a border security bill, okay, H.R. 2, which was the one that was passed in the House and sent up to the Senate. That one is the real border security bill. But H.R. 2 hasn't even seen the light of day in the Senate because Chuck Schumer has stuck it in the bottom drawer and is not going to allow it to see the light of day, because that is the real border security bill. But they keep talking about this whole border security bill that Trump vetoed or torpedoed. That's the term that they use. But that the Trump torpedoed this. No, he didn't. He didn't torpedo it. He might have consulted with some people, but let's be honest with you. I mean, I always am, but let's be honest. It wasn't a border security bill. It was letting in people across the border. Up to 5,000 per day crossings would be allowed under that plan. That isn't a border security bill. That's just making sure that the sieve stays open. That's what it is. A sieve across the border. Now we're going to slow down some of it, but still some water's going to get through. Yeah. No, I don't think so. So that survey that I was talking about just a second ago, the survey polled about 1,000 registered voters on August 20th and 21st, and it has a margin of error of like 3 percentage points. So overwhelmingly, people support voter ID. Overwhelmingly, people think that the country is going to get, we're not going to have a secure election this time around in 2024. Even though 2020, we should have fixed all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, these people. Yeah, they're for the people, all right. The Democrats are. The Democrats are for the people. Yeah, they're so for the people. Has anybody heard about this new thing that the DNC, that the Biden-Harris administration launched during the DNC? I'll tell you, this program, which is an amnesty program, by the way, which is an amnesty program that Congress never authorized. Now, I want people to understand this. This goes back to the whole concept of the Constitution, okay? Congress is the one that determines the laws within this country. Congress is the one that determines how immigrants are brought into this country. They've already set up laws for this. The president, who is part of the executive branch, actually, I rephrase myself, he or she is the executive branch. They are supposed to enforce those laws, not create law. The executive branch cannot create laws. We have lost this simple constitutional concept in this country because of the fact that our people, the young, the middle-aged, are not taught constitutional civics in school anymore. Apparently, and this is according to Fox News. Now, I had heard about this from other places, but Fox News put it out. Apparently, the Biden-Harris administration kicked off what critics call an amnesty program for illegal, and I'm going to call them by what they are, they're aliens, okay, illegal aliens during the week of the Democratic National Convention. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services calls it keeping families together, which will, I mean, never mind the fact they lost 320,000 children coming across. Unaccompanied minors, by the way. But here, I digress. Keeping families together, which will make an estimated 500,000 non-citizen spouses and another 50,000 non-citizen stepchildren of U.S. citizens eligible for parole. The agency specifies non-citizens who are present in the United States without admission or parole may be considered for parole in place under this process. Admission means legally authorized to be in the country with a green card, visa, or other reasons. Now, Andrew Arthur, who is a resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies, told Fox News Digital, this is a massive amnesty that Congress never authorized. Here we go. The Biden-Harris administration are once again attempting to usurp the Constitution and create regulations and law outside of their constitutional authority. They've done this over and over and over during this administration. Arthur added, who is a former immigration judge too, added, under a Harris-Walz administration, everybody in the country illegally could eventually be eligible for a process like this. It would hold Republicans' feet to the fire to undo it afterward or thereafter. But as we've seen with DACA, administrative amnesties, got to get my thumb out of my mouth, are difficult to undo. DACA, which is, of course, Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, was a 2012 executive action that President Barack Obama's administration put into play, giving legal status to the children of illegal aliens. According to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, for the new Keeping Families Together program, a spouse must have been physically in the United States for 10 years without admission or parole, having no disqualifying criminal history, and otherwise not deemed to be a threat to public safety, national security, or border security, and undergo background checks. Well, we already know how far that went. We've got people released in this country that came across the border illegally and were just given a cell phone and a court date. They didn't even bother to look. Yeah. So here we are. They're just, once again, the Democrat Party likes to do this. They like to get the Republicans to stick they can just stick a little inch. That's all they want to do, is they try to stick the Republicans. Just give us just this little tiny thing. Sooner or later, they end up taking a mile. So, yeah. Again, this is just, and it goes even further than that. All of this, of course, is completely unconstitutional because of the fact that, and I'll be surprised if it isn't challenged, to be honest with you, but all of this is unconstitutional because, again, as I point out, Congress makes laws. The executive enforces them. That's it. The legislature makes the laws. And Congress, or the executive branch, is supposed to enforce the laws. If they're poorly written laws, as we've seen by the Chevron deference overturning, if they're poorly written, they need to get rewritten correctly. Congress needs to take steps toward this. Well, apparently, some states are already going to do just that. They are already challenging this amnesty law. Right here in Newsmax, 16 state attorneys general sue Biden for the amnesty for 1 million illegals. So attorneys general from Texas, Idaho, and 14 other states filed suit on Friday over the new policy that allows 1 million of illegal aliens a pathway to citizenship without having to first leave the United States. America First Legal also joined the lawsuit against the policy titled Keeping Families Together, which took effect on Monday. The policy, the first announced by the White House back in June, would allow, and I've already told you all this. So the AGs and Stephen Miller of AFL said that it violates the Administrative Procedures Act, among other issues. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, God, this guy is just, he has got some serious, stones on him. He said, under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the federal government is actively working to turn the United States into a nation without borders and a country without laws. I will not let this happen. Biden's new parole workaround unilaterally grants the opportunity for citizenship to unvetted aliens whose first act on American soil was to break our laws. This violates the Constitution and actively worsens the illegal alien disaster that is hurting Texas and our country. So all of the states that are joining, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Wyoming also joined Texas and Idaho as well. So, we'll have to watch this one, see where this goes. But I'm glad that they're actually doing it, to be honest with you. Because again, we need more state interaction to hold the federal government accountable. What a lot of people don't seem to understand is the federal government is actually supposed to be the lowest man in terms of governmental power. The federal government is supposed to be the weakest. When it comes to the states, they are the ones who have the power. And of course, the people of America have the best and strongest power. That's the way it's supposed to work in our government system. All right. Well, one funny thing that came out of the DNC, and I'm not talking about Kamala Harris's cackle, which, by the way, I have attempted to try and like absorb her spirit in some way. I can't get her voice to save my life. I can't even come close. My nose, I can't do the nasally stuff. So I've tried. My wife, she tells me, yeah, you're too high, too low, not nasally enough. I just can't perfect it. Anyway, well, there was a funny little thing that came out. First of all, there was an attempt by Mike Lindell. Thank you, 3 Chevy, for reminding me here. Mike Lindell tried to get an illegal alien into the DNC, but they said that he needed an ID and kept him outside of the fence that they put up. So I guess walls and voter IDs work, even though the DNC and the Democrats say that they don't. But anyway, I digress. The other thing that happened is that I don't know if anybody, does anybody know? Just tell me in the chat if you know this guy. Does anybody know Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire? You might know him from the critically acclaimed video of What is a Woman and the the comedy that came out called Lady Ballers from the Daily Wire here recently. But anyway, Matt Walsh apparently went incognito into the DNC and got some very well-known Democrats, one in particular, Don Lemon, to hold up a card and get a picture of this Project 2025 website that they put together. So here in Woke Spy, this is just classic. I mean, these guys, I don't know where they came up with the idea, but it's awesome. He went in, he spoke to a number of Democrats, including the liberal social media personality Don Lemon, and he warned them of the dangers of Project 2025, which of course is the policy framework that, they keep trying to say is Trump's. It's not Trump's. The Heritage Foundation is actually for the real deal. The Heritage Foundation has been putting these policy think tank projects out for conservative values since the early 80s, okay, under Reagan. And they've been doing it for every single election cycle for the presidency, every single cycle. And so anyway, the Democrats have been trying to push Project 2025 as being the most dangerous thing on the planet. Believe me, it's not. 80% of it, at least 80% of it actually aligns up with Trump's Agenda 47. And also, as I've shown you on this program and pointed out multiple times on social media, that it actually, when you take away the Democrat lies about it, people overwhelmingly support the points within Project 2025. And surveys were done in battleground states to prove this. But beyond all that, to get back to where I was, Lemon and many others were handed a leaflet which directed them to learn the truth at project2025.com. And here's the picture of Don Lemon holding up this card that says, learn the truth at project2025.com. Now, here's the thing. The Project 2025 website, you got to look at this. I'm sorry. If you're on audio, seriously, go and take a look at the video. This is just hilarious. Here's the website. Project2025.com. And it's an ad for Matt Walsh's upcoming movie that's coming out soon in theaters, called Am I Racist? And what's even better is this website just looks, I mean, if anybody who is old enough to remember the very early websites when the web became like the first kind of things and they started to do more graphics and not so much text, this thing really looks like it was. But what's even better is they've got a couple links here And these links actually go to different places in the net, and a couple of them actually go to a video of Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" on YouTube. I don't know if anybody has heard of the term Rickrolled, but that's what it is. You're being Rickrolled when you're being redirected to go to the Rick Astley "Never Gonna Give You Up" video. That's being Rickrolled. And that's exactly what's going on here. They have these links that are going everywhere. And yeah, so I guess apparently thousands of Democrats were duped by this and were punked. That's the newest term. I don't even know if it's a new term. I don't care. I'm a boomer. I'm not a boomer, but I'm considered a boomer because I'm an old person. But anyway, I'm actually a Gen Xer. But yeah, so they gave them these cards and told them, go to project2025.com and figure this out. Get ready to learn the truth, it says on the website. And when you open the different links, it goes to different stuff like this one, which opens up the "Am I Racist?" Matt Walsh, "Am I Racist?" Oh my gosh. Yeah. As I was saying too, I mean, here's one of the Rick rolled, or the Rick thing. Here you go. Oh, I'm gonna get copyrighted on this. Anyway, so yeah, it's just classic. I think it's just awesome. These people are so sycophantically like, oh my God, Project 2025, without even knowing what it actually is. Yeah, it's just hilarious. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that was a classic. That was really, really good for them to go ahead and do that. All right. Speaking of fact checking Project 2025, we're going to jump into fact checking Tim Walz again. Tim Walz, you know, Tim Walz, the guy that said that he was a command sergeant major, was even introduced as such at the DNC. Totally false. He is a master sergeant, retired. Okay. He never completed the command sergeant major training. He never completed it. And also, has been caught on video saying that he carried weapons of war in war, even though he never went. In fact, he retired prior to running off to Iraq, or being sent off to Iraq, because he didn't want to go to Iraq, even though his congressional website, which, by the way, looks like it came from the 80s, but his congressional website stated on March 20th that he knew he was going to Iraq and that he was going to keep up his congressional campaign, even though he would be going to Iraq. And then he retires like a couple months later. So don't tell me that he didn't already put in his paperwork. He knew he was going to be retired. You would think that would be, something that his campaign would talk about, but they didn't. They didn't. Apparently, he has been running around telling people, and this in the Daily Wire, that he re-enlisted because of September 11th. Kind of sounds a little bit like the whole Biden, ran again because of the whole Charlottesville episode that never occurred, Anyway, here they talk about, among his many other lies about his military service, Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz also fabricated a story about re-enlisting in the National Guard right after September 11th of 2001. So, as I was saying, that Walz and the Harris campaign have repeatedly claimed that Walz re-enlisted instead of retiring after 20 years when terrorists piloted planes into the World Trade Center on 9/11. In reality, Walz wasn't up for retirement until the following year. So his re-enlistment was not about the immediate attack on the U.S., according to the Federalist. Walz initially enlisted in April of 1981, which would have put his 20-year retirement at April 2001, months before the attacks. But Walz had had an inactive period of about 7.5 months that would have deferred his retirement by the same amount of time, thereby putting his 20-year retirement in November of 2001, a month after the September 11th attacks. The problem for Walz is he said during a 2009 interview that his retirement happened to occur the week of September 11th, 2001. Here's the quote. My 20 years was actually, ironically enough, up that week of September 11th. Because of the time I had off and made up. So I re-enlisted like I think the vast majority of people did, with a real sense of uncertainty, but a real sense of wanting to do something, Walz said at the time. That itself is untrue, since Walz wouldn't have been eligible for retirement until a month after he said he was. He also said, when responding to a veteran questioning Walz's decision to retire just 2 months after receiving the notice that his battalion could deploy to Iraq, he said, after completing 20 years of service in 2001, I re-enlisted to serve our country for an additional 4 years following September 11th and retired the year before my battalion was deployed to Iraq in order to run for Congress. No. He was running for Congress before he decided to retire. I just told you that. And if you go in the Wayback Machine, you can find that Tim Walz for Congress website. Yeah. So, once again, the man is lying. Statement that came out from the National Guard's Director of Manpower and Personnel, Army Colonel Ryan Cochran. He put out this statement on August 13th, explaining it, said Governor Tim Walz received his notification of eligibility for retirement on August 3rd, 2002. He was promoted to Sergeant Major E9 on September 17th, 2004, and immediately began to serve as Command Sergeant Major for the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery, while his packet was submitted to the National Guard Bureau to appoint him to Command Sergeant Major, which is his E9. Once approved by NJB, he was laterally appointed to Command Sergeant Major on April 1st, 2005, but then he retired from the Minnesota National Guard on May 16th, 2005. Our records do not indicate when he made his request to retire. And I just told you, March 20th, he said that he was going to Iraq in his campaign, on his campaign website. Okay? Because he did not complete all the required U.S. Army Sergeant Majors. Oh, he was administratively reduced on May 15th to Master Sergeant because he did not complete all the required U.S. Army Sergeant Majors Academy coursework. So he actually wasn't up for retirement until a year after September 11th in 2001, and thus could not have been eligible to retire the same week during the devastating attacks. Now, he could have decided to re-enlist because of the attacks, but it is disingenuous to say that he was up for retirement when the planes hit. And that's part of the problem with him. He constantly twists and manipulates kind of half-truths to make it sound realistic, but it actually isn't. This guy, I'm telling you, lying, stolen, valor, coward is what I call him on every single one of the posts when I post about this, about him on X, because that's what he is. He just lies. Like all Democrats, he lies. Speaking of lying, apparently Jen Psaki has been talking to Congress behind closed doors. And why? Well, take a look here. This in the Washington Free Beacon. In closed-door testimony, Jen Psaki, I call her Psaki, says She didn't challenge or question the Biden-Harris administration's inaccurate information on the bungled Afghanistan withdrawal. She tells the congressional committee that she didn't investigate information that contradicted her public statements. So in other words, she just accepted whatever she was spoon-fed, which doesn't really surprise me that she is now an MSNBC host. She apparently, she says, made no attempt to challenge or question inaccurate information from the Biden-Harris administration during its disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. She told lawmakers during a closed-door interview with the House Foreign Affairs Committee, in more than 230 pages of written testimony, a transcript of which was obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, Psaki revealed that she almost never consulted with the State Department or the Pentagon, the primary agencies that were orchestrating the withdrawal, and did not attempt to investigate information that contradicted her claims to the American public. Yeah. So, she just accepted whatever she was spoon-fed, which is why she is now an MSNBC host. And so you can guarantee, I can guarantee you she's not going to investigate anything they tell her at all. She, just as a couple of examples, she called it irresponsible to say that Americans were stranded in Afghanistan amid the withdrawal. We know that that actually is the case. 1 month after the hurried exit in September of 2021, she said around 100 Americans were left there. But by October, the administration officials were privately relaying to lawmakers that nearly 400 Americans were left there, still trying to get out. Yeah. So, yeah, she's just a horrible person. She didn't even bother to question what was spoon-fed her, and she just regurgitated the talking points. That's all she did. That's what she did. So you have to ask yourself, when she says something like this, is she telling you the truth, or is she just regurgitating talking points? Because here in the Daily Wire, Jen Psaki says Kamala, or Kamala, or Kamala, or whatever you want to call her, is charismatic, like Hillary Clinton. Oh my gosh. Oh, these people, they are just so enamored with their own people, even though they're disgusting, horrible, garbage human beings. Anyway, she said Thursday that Kamala Harris is charismatic, like Hillary Clinton. Harris has this magical charismatic quality in person, Psaki said during the network's coverage of the DNC, which, by the way, that was the love fest of the week. I mean, didn't you feel the love and joy that was coming out of the DNC all that time? Yeah. Anyway, she apparently stated that Kamala Harris is as likable as Hillary Clinton. God, I hope so, because Hillary Clinton was not likable at all. That's why she lost, even though the sycophantic press and everybody else was like, oh, she's going to be the first woman president. She's going to win 91% chance that she's going to win. Oh, she's so great. No, she's a horrible, garbage human being. We know this because of all the stories that are about her being the Arkansas first lady. And, the Clinton, oh my God, the first lady in the Clinton years. Yeah. And how she treated her staff and the Secret Service and the troopers, the Arkansas state troopers that were protecting her there. Yeah. So anyway, she was also, don't forget that Clinton was specifically criticized during her 2016 run for president for having a charisma problem. Clinton's policies look good, but she lacks authenticity and a kind of charisma required to unite a nation, one Guardian opinion piece from early 2016 declared. The QZ headline from fall of that same year read, Hillary Clinton's charisma deficit is a common problem for female leaders. Yeah, she doesn't have charisma, folks. Harris also doesn't have charisma. And eventually, if they would allow her to freaking get in front of people and actually speak extemporaneously, the American public, who are sycophantic morons, would lose their sycophanticism a little bit. Anyway. All right, so let's get on to tonight's question of the week. And tonight's question of the week was sent in by the venerable Buddy Weiser. I haven't seen Buddy in the chat, so I don't know what's going on with him. I'm hoping that he's okay. Usually he's a regular. But anyway, Buddy writes, "Greetings, my fellow patriot. I hope this finds you well and with a stout spirit. No need for quaint small talk, as this is my inquiry. Candidate Harris has mentioned her intention to push for an unrealized capital gains tax. This would be money owed to the U.S. government from the future, profits or earnings. Would this change a normal taxpayer into an indentured servant? Please explain your answer. Thank you." All right. So here it is, okay? And this really boils down to it. No, it would not turn them into an indentured servant. At least not by definition. So indentured servitude, by definition, is essentially a form of labor in which an individual is under a contract to work without a salary for a certain time frame to repay a loan. Okay? That's the key. You are given a loan. The government isn't giving us a loan. They're just taking our earnings that we haven't even recouped yet. That's what an unrealized capital gains tax actually is, which essentially means that if you have $1,000 and you make over the course of the year, say $500 in the market on those $1,000, but you left that $500 in the market, didn't even pull it out, didn't do anything with it, just left it there because you knew that you're not going to pull it out for another 20 years, okay? What the unrealized capital gains tax does is to take that $500 and say, oh, you're going to owe whatever it is, 30% tax, 28% tax, 25% tax on that $500 that year. Well, if you lose it the following year, okay, because again, you're playing the stock market goes down, you lose it that following year. Are you going to be taxed or given a refund on that unrealized capital gain that you just lost? No, you're not. Now, the Democrats will tell you that that is an overly simplistic viewpoint of it, and that the entire thing is, going to be over people over $100 million. But what they don't seem to understand is that it's those types of people who have that money to just throw around to be able to feed it back into the economy and entrepreneurship in order to make more money. That's the whole point. But that isn't the case. So, no, I do not believe that by definition that would make us indentured servants. What that makes us is actually futuristic slaves, because we didn't enter into any kind of a contract here. We didn't enter into a contract with this. I mean, realistically, this is just the government taking the money that they want. That's it. That's it. So no, I don't agree with that in terms of that definition. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. All right, folks, that is it for me for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account, because that is the free speech alternative to YouTube. And once you have that account, search up the American Perspective channel and make sure you hit that follow button so that you can be notified of every single time that I go live. Also, too, if you are on all of my outlets, please hit those thumbs up buttons, those like buttons, those whatever kind of buttons that you have. Over on Rumble in particular, you have to be signed in order to hit that Rumble button, which is the thumbs up button. But do that so that you can help me get more exposure for these videos and these live streams. We will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.